So after this video, don't hate me, hate the mechanics and hate the games that I'm talking about, because some of these mechanics that I'm going to talk about are quite controversial, I think. Some people might like them, but I don't know. Also, please don't hate on my accent. I'm really trying. My American accent sucks ass. So I'm thinking, why not? Let's try something else. First game mechanic I really hate in a game. It's in Fallout, and it's one of the primary mechanics of Fallout. It's targeting body parts. Here's why I don't like it. It's because it breaks space. What that means is when you're shooting an enemy, you're in action, you're actually involved into shooting the enemy. And if you focus and use your ability to focus parts on the enemy body, shoot them in the head, in the shoulder, it kind of breaks the pace, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel bad when you're playing Doom? And what if suddenly you have to pause and think and your whole game flow is broken? Now I know so many people like the Fallout targeting body parts mechanic, but personally I really hate it. I wish it was not in the game. I wish something better had been done. I wish for something different, because I really like the Fallout idea. I don't know, I've never been able to actually enjoy Fallout, and this is one of the reasons I could not enjoy it, targeting body parts. I don't have to use it, you don't have to use it, but it's a core game mechanic of the game. And personally, I don't think it works. I don't think it works. Take it with a grain of salt. My number 2 tip on this list might have to do with the game limitations of the time, but I really don't like cutscenes, opening doors, opening windows, climbing ladders. You used to see this in older games, right? One of the examples was Witcher 2. And it's for the same thing, it breaks pace, it breaks the pace of the game. So let me explain what I'm talking about. You're playing a game, you're playing Witcher 2, and you're moving around, doing things, and at some point you want to enter a house. And instead of just entering the house, instead of the game just flowing in the house, you have a mini cutscene with the main character opening a door and entering the house, or climbing a cliff, climbing a ladder. And there's been many older-ish games doing this kind of thing, but I do understand it was a bit of a limitation in terms of technology, in terms of what they could do. So nowadays I think it's solved in many other games. I haven't seen this in a long time, but for the love of God, if you're making a game like this, don't make climbing ladders a cutscene, don't make opening doors a cutscene. It breaks pace. Pace is very important in games. I tend to notice I'm particularly sensitive to game pacing or to bad game pacing. So again, take this with a grain of salt. Some people might really not mind it at all. But it's time to talk about something I've talked previously in my previous video about, and that is fishing. Fishing sucks! Really bad. Fishing is the plague of games. Fishing is that thing that no one likes. Fishing is stupid, but not because fishing itself is stupid. The way it's implemented in most games is stupid, and that you have to wait for the fish to bait, and then you have to click on it. It's this really weird mini-game with a really bad pace, when you have to wait for the fish to hook, and then you have to also pay attention to it and click on it when the time is right. So for a bit of time, you're actually not doing anything, and then you have to click on the fish and be active, paying a lot of attention. It's kind of like a meditation, right? You're meditating, but once in a while you have to press a button at random intervals. Pacing. So yeah, if you want to implement fishing in your game, please just find something else. Find a way to implement fishing that's not like the traditional fishing in games, not like World of Warcraft. One game that actually did fishing right is Stardew Valley with its meters. I will link my video on that in the description. Before I move on to number 4, if you're liking my accent, if you're liking my video, please do consider hitting the like button, because it really helps me a lot. And I guarantee I'm putting out content that many people do not talk about. So a lot of these things that I talk about on my channel are not generally discussed. Like, yeah, half of them, the pretty basic knowledge on game design. But the other half are my personal discoveries about game design, about bad game mechanics, or things I found in niche posts on the internet. And I want to talk about those. I want to talk about things people don't talk about. So for quality content like that, for quality information like that, do consider subscribing. Hey, video quality might not be great because my phone is 5-8 years old. Once I have enough money, maybe I'll buy a bit better phone. So let's talk about number 4, and this one is important, especially in role-playing games tabletop games, and turn-based games. And that is stunning the player. What I mean by that, let me explain. Nothing and nothing feels worse in a turn-based game except having a dead turn. Now, I've known this for quite a while, but I've recently watched a GDC talk about Into the Breach, and one thing they really tried to avoid was dead turns, turns in which you did not do anything. Not necessarily because you couldn't, but because you had nothing else to do. But what I'm talking about here is dead turns because you cannot. If you're playing Dungeons and Dragons in your Game Master, please take note of this because it's very important. It's one of my biggest tips I have for you. Do not stun the players. Don't grapple the players. Don't stun the players. You can slow the players down, you can silence them, you can take away their weapons, but do not give them dead turns. It's the worst feeling possible. The worst feeling a player in a turn-based game can feel is not being able to do anything on their turn, or not having anything to do on their turn. Please try to avoid this, try to avoid having dead turns. Dead turns really suck. My fifth tip for this video, I think it's a culprit of older games, but I've seen it in more modern games as well. The tip is very simple. It's not punishing death enough. One thing I hate about Skyrim, which by the way is one of my favorite games, is the manual saving thing. You can just save at any point and that's it. You're set up. You can't lose. That's what it is. And I think manual saving is really bad because it promotes not punishing the player. Look, the player in a game must be punished for their mistake. You absolutely have to punish the players for their mistakes. Otherwise, they will not improve. That is the thing. We all hate losing souls in Dark Souls, but at the same time, we love it. I love losing 10,000 souls in Dark Souls because it punishes me for making mistakes and that makes me want to improve. I know, just wasting the player's time to get back to that point is not good enough. It has to be more. Just taking away 5% of the player's money, not good enough. It's not gonna cut it. You have to punish the players more. When I'm playing a game, I want to be punished. I want to be beaten to death. When I die, when I make a mistake, I want to be punished. I want to have my whole character taken away, beaten, trashed, spat on. That's what I want my game to do. That's what I want games to do. Now, obviously, not everyone has the same preference as I do, but I think universally, games don't generally punish the players enough for their mistakes. But again, it really depends on the kind of game you're playing. Because if you're making the same mistake over and over again, it's not gonna be fun to be punished over and over again. There has to be some sort of common ground for this. There has to be a middle line between punishing player too much and not punishing the player enough. And I'm not sure how you can fix that just through a tip. I think it requires trying things out, seeing how things work and hoping for the best. If you're liking this video, the like button is right there. It's blue. Actually, no, it's not blue. You turn it blue. Also, the subscribe button is right there. Come on. Quality information mostly every week until I run out of ideas. When I run out of ideas, I'm gonna upload Dungeons and Dragons things and philosophy. Hope you like those because they're coming at some point. Definitely do tell me if you like my accent. Does it sound good? I don't know. It's the first time I'm doing this accent and honestly I'm liking it more than my bad American accent, so fingers crossed. Till next time, Dave W. Have a nice development journey. These intros are so awkward.